Okay. Today I'm here with Chef Scott Craig, who is a World Association of Chefs Society certified master chef. Currently, Chef is the director of culinary operations at the Myers Park Country Club, which is in North Carolina. How you doing today, Chef Scott?
Doing great, thanks. It's great to be with you.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you here. I think we should get started by just doing a quick introduction. Maybe take a couple of minutes, tell us a little bit about where you are and kind of how you got there.
Sure. Yeah, we're in Charlotte, North Carolina. Myers Park Country Club. It's a really, really amazing place. It's actually my third time working at Myers Park Country Club. I just keep coming back. It's the membership's incredible. Our interests are very, very convergent as it relates to food and culture. And I started off in Southern Virginia, went to Virginia Tech to become a psychologist. Quickly found a passion for cooking as I was kind of working my way through school. Began an apprenticeship at Baltimore Country Club, which was incredible. From there, went down to Chevy Chase Club on Connecticut Ave outside of DC. Again, just an amazing facility, amazing staff to work with. Then came down to Charlotte and worked my way up from sous chef to executive sous chef. Left briefly, came back as executive chef. Went back to Chevy Chase Club as executive chef when one of my mentors moved on, and then was invited yet again to come back to Myers Park Country Club. And so I've been the director of culinary operations there for 3 years now.
Awesome. Well, I was, obviously getting a chance to read a little bit more about you, and I'm going to tell you a number of things jumped out at me. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was it says that you are a Culinary Olympic gold medalist.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Competition's always been a really, really big part of my education. I didn't go to culinary school, and I kind of went through the school of hard knocks and learned on the job. And I found competition to be a really, really great way to measure your skills against, your fellow chefs and to network. And that was huge. And so the first chef that I worked for really, as an apprentice was John Bell on the 2000 Culinary Olympic team representing the United States and Germany. And he had a gold medal on his wall from that competition. And every time I'd go to his office, I would see that gold medal. And very early on, that was a very formative part of my career. I would just stare at that medal. He could be chewing me out for doing something wrong, or we could be talking about anything, but I would just fixate on that. And so that became a goal. Around 2009 or 10, I decided it's going to happen. I'm going 2012. Was able to get a spot over there as an individual competing in Erfurt, and spent a year and a half. Competed 8 times over 12 months in New York, St. Louis, Florida. Just really, really put myself through the ringer. I wanted to make practice as hard as it could be so the competition would be easy. And I always said, you won't be the most talented, you won't be the most experienced, but you can absolutely be the most prepared. And I was as shocked as anyone to score well and earn a gold my first time out. And that was one of the best moments of my career.
Awesome. Now, do you have the medal over your desk so that everybody else can get the same inspiration that they see when they come talk to you?
It was funny when I took it to the framer. He said, "Do you have any idea what it's going to look like? What you want to do?" And I was able to tell him exactly how to frame it. Like, oh no, this is exactly what you're doing. And and I tell that story to all the folks that work with us as well. But hopefully it is something aspirational they can look to, and who knows where it can take them.
Well, that's outstanding. You have a long list of accomplishments, and as you took us through your career, I mean, it's obvious that you've built yourself from the ground up. Like you said, you haven't gone to, you never went to culinary school, so this has been the school of hard knocks, I think, as you put it. So, obviously, I'm sure that has to draw a great deal of respect from your team, because I think it's always nice when you can say you've been there, you've done that, and this is how I got to the other side of it. And I think everybody always appreciates that. Sure.
Yeah, hopefully. I started off as a dishwasher as a freshman in college. And so there's, but too, at Myers Park Country Club, that's one of the things that I love about it, that even if I went somewhere else, I couldn't get there's nothing in the club that I haven't done as a sous chef, executive sous chef. Whether it's tamping things down into the dumpster, or working fine dining. It's been there, done it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I know that one of the things that we always talk about, or we try to talk about, is that, obviously the pandemic has changed the world. And I
Right.
think part of getting to the other side of this is definitely talking about it. So,
Right.
how would you say the last year and a half, the pandemic time has changed or impacted your business?
So, it's wild. I mean, cost of goods have been extraordinary, and just kind of keeping up with that, whether it's, chicken wings doubling in price, or beef doubling in price, or paper goods right now, cost of latex gloves, all of that stuff. So that's been really impactful. A big piece of just managing it right now is staying on top of the costs on a day-to-day basis. It's almost hour to hour. It used to be month to month, looking
Right.
back at your sales. And now it's, you can find out at lunchtime that you don't have lump crab meat for the next night for a wedding. And so, being aware of what's available, what the cost is, and making sure that you're costing accurately has been a huge part of it. A piece that, I'm thankful for is, the way we look at our staff. And, going through the pandemic, we had this term essential. All of a sudden, dishwashers went from being, the guy who rides the bus and stays until 1 o'clock in the morning, to being essential. I knew that. All of our cooks knew that. Now the world knows that. And so
Awesome.
I love how it's reframed how we see those members of our team, our line cooks, our sous chefs, our demi chefs, our stewards are absolutely essential. And so I hope that's reflected in our pay scales for those line level individuals as we go forward, as we plan fiscal year 22, 23. We've been through and seen what it looks like when they can't get in, with the contact tracing and all of that. And so, it's impacted the day-to-day greatly. It's impacted the culture greatly. But beyond that, I mean, even, we already struggled, the industry as a whole struggled with staffing going into COVID. Coming out of COVID, there just is no staff.
Right.
And
right.
so I'm kind of good with that. I'm kind of okay with that, and it kind of, I think, takes us back to a kind of a European model. I think there are some really amazing things that happen at culinary schools, and some of my best friends are instructors. Love those guys. Should you run up $70,000 or $140,000 in debt, getting an education that pays $12 to $15 an hour coming out the door? I don't think so. I think one of the great advantages that I had in my youth was that I wasn't shouldered with that kind of debt. I could afford to go, live in an efficiency in Baltimore and work for a chef that I admired, or in DC. And so, I fully embrace going back into an apprenticeship model. And I think even, in terms of what we purchase and how diners eat, I see, kind of this move towards vegetarianism and veganism, which is amazing. It's great. As these proteins continue to increase in cost, I really feel like over the next couple of years, we're beginning to turn back towards this European model where the food's going to be lighter. People are eating meat a little less often, and these young folks are coming in seeking an education, and we're able to build chefs from the ground up.
I think that's outstanding, and I think as you touched on, the future is, like you said, preparing for 22, preparing for 23, looking at your labor, going to a European model. How are you personally getting, and how's your team getting prepared to shift? Because I mean, obviously you have a huge impact on being able to head towards those models. What are you guys doing to try to get yourselves there and get ready for 22 and 23?
Well, I mean, the most important piece is always staff. It's always the team. And so, I think the most important thing we do is invest in our staff, invest in their educations, make sure that we're retaining those folks and mapping out their futures, the ones that we know will have growth with us. And it's letting them be an active part of planning their future with us, knowing what the next step is and what's required to attain that. And so it's having those conversations, frankly, just on a daily basis. It's just an ongoing conversation. It's not a formal sit down, every month, 6 months, year. It's, just wherever you can grab 5 minutes. Hey, where are you at on the certification? And how can I help you get to that next step? Maybe it's just giving them that nudge to get it completed. So if we have the right people, you can absolutely accomplish anything. Frankly, none of us have any idea what the next 6 months will bring. If the last 6 months is any indicator, but as long as we have the right leaders in place, the right staff in place, there's not much that we can't handle.
Well, I think that's an outstanding way to look at it. I think people are going to have to start, businesses are going to have to start really focus on personalizing the experience pretty much at every level. And those,
right.
Those yearly reviews and all the rest of that have to start cycling their way out, because it's those moments that you share and those personalized experiences that are really going to help engage the team, right?
Absolutely. It's, your person can't make it into work, drop a pizza off at their house on the way home. Begin to value that person. Their PlayStation 5 just arrived yesterday. That's as important as, the other person who has to go out to a wedding and,
right.
and cover their shift for them, And so it's finding new ways to make our staff understand that this is a family, not just saying the words, but creating the culture that makes everyone feel included and equitable. There's an equitable opportunity to succeed.
Awesome. Well, I've definitely worked in a lot of operations and been to a lot of operations where, the culinary world can be a bit cutthroat and maybe not as friendly as you're portraying your world to be there. So it sounds like you've taken some real steps to building a culture, not just receiving one or kind of being a passive participant in one. So what kind of things are you doing to really try to build that culture and make it sustainable, even through something as crazy as this pandemic?
So, coming up in the early 2000s, my model was the Greenbrier Resort. Chef Timmons and then, Chef Rosendale after him. When I would go out and compete, I would see the Greenbrier folks come in and they traveled in packs. It wasn't just one person competing. It would be multiple folks, and they helped each other set up. They let each other know when the judge was in the window. They let each other know when the time was expiring, helped each other break down. And you saw those folks coming into the competition, and you're like, oh man, why did I waste my time? These guys are here again. And so, that culture, supporting one another, pushing one another, evolving the craft together. That's, I think, the crux of who we are. So we have a weekly competition at our club. We have 5 different teams. And so we have 4 features. Anyone can join the competition on a weekly basis. It has to be completely anonymous. I don't know who's submitting what. They come up with their own dishes, and then they bring them upstairs to the table. Someone else brings those dishes, drops them off. We photograph them, and then we have 4 different judges. We judge it anonymously. We don't sign our name to it. And so it could be the general manager, myself, the pastry chef, our admin, anybody is judging it because all of the opinions are valuable. And they might see something that I don't see. I don't want to sign it. I don't want our admin to sign it because I want that person to feel free to say whatever needs to be said about the dish. And so none of us have any idea who made what. We try everything, we score it, and then there's a winner. And they get this big, huge championship belt, just like as if they were in the WWE. And and it's huge. It's a point of pride. And so they get photographed for social media. The belt comes back to their kitchen. They put it right over their doorway. And so who the champions are. that week. And so that builds throughout the year. But we have this culture of competition. We've in 2016 with Youth Team USA, they take 6 young chefs from the United States. 2 of them came from our team. When I competed at Hotel Olympia in 2018, I was the sous chef for my sous chef. And so it was her turn to carry it. She had helped me with Germany in 2012. I said, all right, you take the lead and I'll be your sous chef this time. And so it's that culture, with Lashenda or Tessors, we were able to earn Best Young Chef in the Mid-Atlantic 2 years in a row. We competed again here in the Southeast last year. But it's just building them up. So when they go out to competitions, it's easy to take for granted what you do on a daily basis when you're surrounded by really great folks and you're making really good food on a daily basis. You kind of punch the clock. All right, man, I'll make this demi-glace. I'll make the beurre blanc. Time to go home. But when you get out and you get a chance to measure yourself against others, you kind of understand what it is that you've been doing on a daily basis and begin to maybe value it a little bit more. You come back, you talk about it, you get excited. That excitement spreads, and now everybody wants to go compete. And our rule is when someone goes to compete, you have to take someone with you, someone who hasn't competed. That person has to help you practice, help you pack, go down there with you, and come back and unpack. And so now that next generation, you're always bringing the next generation up behind you. And so, that's really it. I mean, it's a collaborative effort. It's not super, super friendly. There's tons of fierce, friendly competition. We all want to be the best, but we all understand that none of us can do it alone. I think that's the key.
I love it. I mean, getting a chance to build a culture where you're focusing on growth all of the time, and not only focusing on growth, but I think the piece that gets left out a lot is giving opportunities to succeed, giving opportunities to win. I mean,
right.
How many of us can find a million things right now that are wrong, right? We just focus on the bad stuff all day long. But
right.
I can't imagine having a stressful day or a tough day, and then later being able to walk around with that strap around my shoulder, the big right. championship belt and
right.
Just the pride you get from that. Not only that, but then being somebody on the other side and saying, he was me. I can do that. She did what I
Absolutely.
did, and I think that, that piece is amazing. So, really personalizing, that experience for your team, focusing on growth, celebrating those wins, bringing people along. I mean, that kind of stuff, whenever everything is just crazy out in the world, to have that kind of environment's absolutely amazing.
We use the term family very deliberately. Funny, last Thanksgiving, we had some of the folks from work over. It's always, if you don't have family in town, come on over. There's plenty of food. And so the champion for that week showed up and she had the belt on. Actually had Thanksgiving dinner with her belt, the heavyweight belt, just to, make the statement. But it's awesome. Fun. It's really cool.
Yeah. That is awesome. Now, when you and I were talking before, one of the things you said was that I think people never actually leave you, right? Like you build from within, you grow from within, you never hire from the outside for the leadership roles. Right. And then you stay connected, right? Or am I getting that right?
Absolutely. And again, it's something that, I feel like I'm modeled after this incredible, Greenbrier program it's still incredible. But, I knew it back in the early 2000s. And I knew it was always something that I wanted to be a part of our program at some point. I want to proliferate that and make that more the norm than it is currently in the industry. And so generally, I'm speaking pre-COVID, we hire once a year. We'll bring in interns from different culinary schools in May. They'll work over the summer, kind of understand what their strengths are, what their opportunities are for improvement. We get to fall, disseminate them throughout the operation. But the goal is always to promote entirely from within. And so interns become line cooks to demi chefs, demi chefs to sous chefs, sous chef obviously, then to chef de cuisine or executive sous chef. And so, one of our best, so we had an amazing executive sous chef. She works in purchasing now with us. She started off as an intern, and she'd been out of the industry for 18 years. She raised kids and all of that, and came in as an intern. She was absolutely phenomenal. She was a rock star, and rose all the way to executive sous chef. And she's like, all right, that's quite enough of that. I'm going to go over to purchasing and take the 9 to 5. And so she's smarter than all of us, but that's the model. I think it's far too easy to fail as a newly promoted sous chef. And so that demi chef step is very important, I think. And also, I've known plenty of really wonderful chefs that came in as sous chefs over the years. And I just see that kind of wolf pack pick at them and just make them prove themselves over and over. And sometimes it doesn't matter where they came from, what they can do. That pack just kind of always pulls them back, because
Right.
they're not one of them yet. And so, I think it's the cornerstone of who we are. It's the first thing I say when I'm describing our culture to a potential candidate, is that you'll determine what your ceiling is here. My goal is to bring you in as an intern, to have you work all the way up, and then have you exit here in a position of leadership in our industry, and we'll continue to support you. When they move on, we've had two executive sous chefs leave as, or chef de cuisines leave as executive chefs in the past 10 months or so, but the relationship continues. We store all of our information on our Dropbox, spec sheets, recipes, menus, photographs, all those things. They stay on there as a resource when they move on. And so, we'll put our features up here in a half hour or so. And so if now that executive chef up in Pennsylvania that came out of our team, if he's strapped for an idea, he can just pull it up and say, oh man, flounder francais, it's already specced. It's 4 ounces of linguine. It's, 5 ounces of flounder. It's all of this. And just give it to his sous chef and say, this is our feature this week.
Wow.
But yeah, it's continuing those relationships. It's trying to offer an amount of support that you perhaps wish you had when you entered the industry in a position of leadership. I tell them when they come out, you can't fail. Like when you come out into your first executive chef role, this is where you really have to prove yourself. There's nothing I won't do to help you. And just crush it, give it 3 to 5 years, and then you're good. And then, onwards and upwards.
Awesome. Now, one of the things I wanted to touch on, because I had to ask you about it when I saw it, but tell me about the Southeast Emergency Response Network.
Sure. Yeah. It's a project that I'm really, really excited about. During COVID, we found lots of opportunity to be able to help in the community. We were doing takeout and curbside and all of this, and we found ourselves with all of this fully cooked, packaged product that wasn't moving. Have this stuff left over one day, this stuff left over the next day. And so we identified a few charities that we could work with in the community, Harvest Center, and a couple different others. And so we started moving that product out twice a week. And we moved a little over 1,000 pounds of food in 2020 out to these 3 different charities. We also partnered with a company called Fresh List. They have about 25 different local farms that they work with to connect them directly to our membership. So as restaurants were no longer purchasing that product, they could stay solvent and stay profitable and move that product directly to our membership. Kept our members out of the grocery stores during the pandemic. They would just drive right up on a Saturday, reload your trunk, head out. Farmers are paid. Everybody's happy. Once we kind of took a step back and saw the scope of what we were able to do in 2020, we said, man, how do we keep this going? And if one club could be this impactful, what could 10 do? What could 20 do? What could 2,500 do? And so that's my goal, is to leverage relationships with fellow chefs and with vendors throughout the Southeast we'll start in the Southeast. I hope it gets bigger than that at some point, and say, okay, if there's a flood in Wilmington or in Nashville, Tennessee, the goal is to be able to feed 250 people hot meals, to provide Wi-Fi and cell phone charging to first responders and displaced citizens. And so, yeah, we're working on capitalizing it. We're building the network, and we hope to be out there, doing some good in the near future.
That's outstanding. I mean, I was in Katrina. I lived in Florida for years, so we went through dozens of hurricanes at that point in time. I just talked to some friends the other day that are still cleaning up from Ida, and so I know that anytime there's any sort of a disaster, having any kind of a helping hand is absolutely amazing. And then to have that be born during the pandemic, and again, to look at the amazing things that you're doing, the growth track that you're put on, the continually investing in your team, building them up, challenging them in a time when people are terrified to challenge people, celebrating when people are forgetting to celebrate. And then of course, reaching out to your community and being a massive part of the success of your local community. I think that's absolutely outstanding, and what hospitality is all about from a leadership perspective. So I sincerely appreciate you sharing that with me and sharing that with our guests today. Now,
thank you.
I feel like I've taken a lot from you already, but one of the things you and I talked about again before this was, imagine being 21 years old right now and trying to enter the hospitality industry at any level, in any position, how terrifying that must be to look at what the future is. And really that we as leaders who have been here, we can't just hand over a book of SOPs and a monument or a building and say, here you go, it's the industry. We really need to take a time to rebuild right now and share that institutional knowledge and try to grow the new people that are coming into the industry, because they are going to be the future of what we do. And if we don't take that time now, there will not be a successful future. They're going to find a way to replace us all with robots, I think is where it's going to. So if you're talking to somebody who's just coming into the industry, who's asking you about this, what kind of advice are you giving them right now?
I would say, remember the reasons that you got into this, and relish it, celebrate it. There's plenty of hard days and there's plenty of hard times. You have to be resilient. You have to be flexible. And ultimately, I think what fuels that resilience and that flexibility, at least for me, is a passion for my craft. It's a passion for my fellow team members. And, as trends evolve, whether we're cooking lighter, it's, fewer proteins on the plate as we move into the future, whether we're, growing apprentices from within as opposed to hiring culinary students. What doesn't change is the passion for the craft and the satisfaction you get after a day of a job well done, and so, I would say just hold on to that. There's plenty of dark days. There's plenty of, tough days. Get sendbacks. Price of beef increases by 5,000% or whatever it is. But ultimately, I'll tell you, I love Instagram. I love food photography. And, part of the reason for that is, it gives me a way to hold on to these things that we do. Food's beautiful if we do it right. And it doesn't have to be overly raw and complex. Just simple, great ingredients on a plate, shot well, is gorgeous. And so, it's really wonderful on some of those days to be able to look back at some of those photos, and you can remember some of that feeling of seeing that dish in the past. So, wherever it is you find your joy, whether that's in the craft or whether that's in the people next to you, hold on to that and remember that on the tough times. And if I could tell myself anything at age 21 is, it's all going to be worth it. Just hang in there. You're going to be fine. You're more resilient than you think.
I love it. If I can highlight anything here, just the adjectives you were using there, talking about joy and the future and just that optimism that, takes you in the right direction versus staring at all the problems, because everybody's going to have problems, right? But if you just focus on what that future is going to be, that's absolutely outstanding. I love it. Thank you very much, Chef Scott, for sharing that. I appreciate that.
Of course. My pleasure.
So you hit on a few things there. So as we wrap this up, first of all, how can people see the photos you're taking on Instagram? How do we find you, Chef Scott?
Sure. Yeah, I'm at Chef Scott Craig on Instagram. And then occasionally I still blog at ifyoucanstandtheheat.com. That blog's been around since about 2010. And you kind of see an evolution. It's pretty ugly, when you go way back. But that's okay. It's an evolution, and I love looking back at those old dishes, but there's some good recipes and photographs on there as well.
Awesome. And then how can we find out more about the Southeast Emergency Response Network?
So yeah, if you follow me on Instagram at Chef Scott Craig, I'll always give updates. I'm currently offering a class in a few weeks on contemporary plating techniques and garnish creation and food photography, kind of rolling that all up together, everything to kind of capitalize the Southeast Emergency Response Network. And so, you'll see updates on there.
That's outstanding. Well, I can guarantee you picked up some followers today. I know I will definitely be checking out some of your photography. I can't wait to read the 2010 blogs. I can't wait to see where that started. And I think that I'm definitely going to be following what's going on with the Southeast Emergency Response Network, because that's great. It's just a great community involvement to have and to be there for people. That's what our industry is all about, and that's what it always has been.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. Again, our listeners have been treated to hearing some great lessons on building culture, as well as some great messages on, entering the industry and being positive and just carrying that positivity through what you do. So again, that joy is a joy for us. So thank you very much for that, Chef Scott, and we look forward to seeing more from you.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.